that's a small number, and eventually will have an impact. But it's not, I mean, Adam and I will certainly be retired. Eric, obviously, has a healthy
many years
exactly, skis and that sort of thing.
Let's go to the next question.
Hello, this is Tunç Durmaz. I'm a PhD student at Norwegian School of Economics. I confirm that the weather will be very nice in 2 years. So we talk a lot about shale oil, shale gas, and it seems that it is a great future. But I work on energy economics and modern climate change, so I become more concerned about the climate. And so it was really nice that you talked about carbon capture and storage, and we have Eric here. So Norway has the biggest research and development facility in Mongstad, and Statoil has a big responsibility. But we're talking about a resource that is actually more expensive to get out. And carbon capture is also an expensive technology. But concerning the environment, what is the strategy of Statoil and Norwegian, let's say, government in terms of the use of this technology in the future? Thank you.
So is that a question like, what's the future of carbon capture and sequestration in Norway?
Yeah, given the shale oil.
Okay. Eric?
I'll try to respond quickly to that in general terms and not talk about Statoil strategy, because that's not my job. In our forecast, we have carbon capture and storage gradually coming in order to reduce CO2 emissions from whatever fossil fuels we have. We're not overly optimistic in terms of the sheer size of the problem. In our low carbon scenario, we have about 10% of remaining CO2 emissions from the power sector globally taken out by CCS, and that's ambitious by 2040. But it takes out quite a bit. And as you're saying, it is an expensive technology. But remember that even in the 2-degree scenario, we're going to use more gas than we do at the moment. And we're going to use about 20% less oil than we do at the moment. And we still arrive at the 2-degree CO2 emission. So you don't have to get rid of all the CO2 in order to arrive at a 2-degree scenario.
There's a lot of work to be done to move forward with carbon capture and sequestration and meeting the goals of carbon reduction. I did a quick back of the envelope calculation. I'd certainly be happy to hear anybody else's numbers, but it would take something like 1,000 of the CCS projects is it Schleppner Field in Norway. So we have one of those. It would take about 1,000 to deal with 1 billion metric tons of carbon, and we probably need to reduce carbon by something like 15 to 20 billion metric tons. So there's a huge job ahead. Yes, sir, please.
Selam Sejou, I'm a Fulbright scholar from Togo and currently in Lehigh University. My question is, given the fact that the process of harvesting shale gas involves fracking and drilling, we know that there are some environmental and sustainability concerns about this practice. What do you think will be the impact of these externalities on the shale gas revolution? Thank you.
Let me try to be brief on this. The two secretaries of energy now that I've worked for, Secretary Chu and Secretary Moniz, have convened sizable and diverse panels to look at fracturing and natural gas. Both of these panels composed of academics, industry people, environmentalists, and others have concluded that although there are challenges associated with fracturing, that those challenges can be managed and that the process can be done safely, and that fracturing is not incompatible with environmental goals in the United States, and I would imagine by extension globally. The biggest problems associated with oil and natural gas development and production, I think, actually are well-designed and surface handling issues associated with water and not the fracturing itself. There are obvious concerns among people concerned about safety of water supplies, but for the most part, potable or drinking water supplies are in the first 200, 300, 400 feet geologically, and the fracturing is taking place at 8,000, 10,000, 12,000 feet. So it's really kind of the traditional and standard, well-designed and best practices that are going to keep fracturing from becoming an unmanageable problem rather than one that's manageable.
Last question.
Mahdi Al-Adid from the Saudi Association for Energy Economics. Thank you for the panels. I have two questions on policy. One, the Jones Act in the U.S., and perhaps this is more relevant to Mr. Szymanski. Do you see a lifting of that act anytime soon? And then the second question generally to the panelists, your views on oil export ban lift and its implication on the U.S. economy, especially on the industry. Is that going to help the industry, or will it have negative ramifications as some people think?
Well, on the first question, since you directed it to me, the Energy Information Administration is, by its very formation documents, does not get into policy. We are kind of a facts-only organization, and the policies associated with things like the Jones Act, Keystone Pipeline, LNG exports, crude oil exports, product exports, I can go through a very long list. We examine the impacts of things like that, but we don't really get into the issues associated with policy choices that really are in the hands of people in the administration and in the Congress of the United States. On the issue of what do exports do from an economic standpoint, EIA has actually looked at that as far as LNG exports is concerned, and I just direct you to the study that we did. I think someone else mentioned here, the gentleman from the IMF that talked about modest impacts on GDP and so on. That was essentially our own finding. We don't really see it having a big impact domestically. I think that most people would say the U.S. has been a free trade nation since its beginnings, and trade is probably, in the absence of other policy choices, trade's probably a good idea. David wants to jump in.
I just wanted to put you out of your misery. So the answers are no to the first one. Adam very skillfully avoided saying no, but the second one, Adam, you've got to think about how long can the United States preach to the world about free trade, without the potential stench of hypocrisy. But that doesn't mean that it's a yes to the second one.
Thank you.
I hope it will be a yes to the second one.
So thank you,
everybody.
Thank you so much.